$187 a month. That's less than your car insurance, less than 2 nights of DoorDash a week, and over 18 years, the difference between having $1 million and having almost nothing. There are 2 of you, same face, same $42,000 starting salary, same 1-bedroom apartment in Raleigh with the rent at $1,150 and the radiator that knocks at night. Same Tuesday, same 22 years old. We'll call one of you the builder and we'll call the other the spender. And right now, today, at 22, there is no difference between you at all. The builder sits on the floor with a laptop because the couch hasn't been delivered yet, opens a Fidelity account. It takes 19 minutes and most of that is finding the routing number on a check you've never used. You set up an automatic transfer, $187 on the first of every month. You split it between 2 funds you barely understand, VTI, which is a little slice of every company in America, and VXUS, which is a little slice of everywhere else. And then you do the only thing that actually matters. You forget about it. The spender, same night, same floor, same no couch. You open Amazon instead. The mattress was Facebook Marketplace, $60, smells faintly of someone else's apartment, and you deserve nice sheets at least. $187 feels like nothing. It is nothing. It's a tank of gas and a bar tab, and the Spotify and the Prime, and the thing you clicked because the ad found you at the exact right moment of being tired. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. Rule 1. The most important financial decision of your life is made on a night you will not remember. Neither of you feels rich. Neither of you feels poor. You both go to bed at 1 a.m. You both have $340 in checking. You are, in every way that you can see, the same person. That's the trap, not the spending, the sameness. Now come the invisible years. 23, 24, 25. The years where nothing happens, because compounding at the start looks exactly like doing nothing at all. The builder's automatic transfer fires every first of the month, and you stop noticing it the way you stop noticing your own heartbeat. The money leaves before you can want it. That's the whole secret, and it's almost insulting how dumb it is. You never increase it, you never touch it, you don't check it for months at a time because, honestly, there's nothing to see. Until one night there is. It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're 3 years in, you've put in close to $7,000 of your own money, dollar by dollar, paycheck by paycheck, every first of the month for 36 months. You open the app to feel something, to see the reward, and the balance says $7,400. You stare at it. 3 years, 36 transfers, the discipline, the store brand olive oil, and the account has grown by maybe $400 more than you put in. $400 over 3 years, and you actually type it into Google. Is investing even worth it? At 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, you read 2 Reddit threads and put the phone face down on the mattress. And here's the part that should make you laugh, except it won't, later. That same weekend, the spender books a spontaneous flight to Miami, $1,200 on a credit card for 2 nights, bottle service the spender absolutely cannot afford, and the spender feels, for that weekend, like the one who figured life out. The spender's photos get 200 likes. The builder's $7,400 gets seen by nobody. If you stop the tape right here, you would pick the Miami life. Anyone would. And that's what makes the next part cruel. Rule 2. Early compounding is supposed to be boring. The boredom is the price of admission, and almost everyone refuses to pay it. You don't know it yet, but the gap between you two has already started. It's just too small to see, like 2 planes leaving the same runway 1 degree apart. Around now, both of you get the phone call. It's your mom. Do you need anything, honey? The builder says no, means it mostly. The spender says no too, and lies, because there's a $400 minimum payment due Friday, and saying yes would mean explaining the Miami trip. Same words, 2 completely different sentences. 26, 27, 28. The builder gets a small raise. $42,000 becomes $51,000. And here's where most people quietly sabotage themselves. The raise arrives and the lifestyle rises to meet it. A nicer car, a bigger place. The builder does something that costs nothing and changes everything. Keeps living like the $42,000 version. The $187 stays $187, but now you start putting money into the 401k at work, just enough to get the full 4% match, because your employer is handing out free money and refusing it started to feel insane. Rule 3. A raise is not a reward, it's a fork in the road that dresses up as one. The spender gets the same raise and buys the Kia K5. $387 a month, 66 months, and for about a week the car smell makes it feel worth it. The spender isn't reckless, understand that. The spender is normal, the spender does exactly what everyone they know is doing, and that's the horror of this whole story. Nothing the spender does is wrong, there's no villain, there's no rock bottom, there's just 1,000 reasonable Tuesdays. At 28, the two of you go to the same friend's wedding, stand in the same suit budget, drink the same open bar, give the same $150 in a card, and from across the room nobody could tell you apart, but the numbers could. The builder is sitting on roughly $24,000 across the Roth and the 401k. The spender has $1,900 in checking and $6,000 in credit card debt that floats month to month like a low fever you've stopped noticing. Still invisible, still no crack in the surface, but remember the gap, it comes back. 29, this is where it starts to show. The builder turns 29 and does the math one Sunday morning with coffee going cold, decides to max the 401k, really max it, lives below the raises, the Roth keeps humming at $187, and somewhere in here the balance does the thing nobody believes until they see it. It crosses the line where the account makes more in a good month than you contribute. You open the app one morning and there's $3,400 in it that wasn't there last month. You didn't do anything, you didn't work for it, it just grew. The money started having children, and the children started having children. And that's the moment the whole thing stops being a sacrifice and starts being a machine. The spender turns 29 too, and this is the first year the lives start to feel different from the inside, even if no one can see it from the outside. Your friend group starts splitting, some people bought houses, some people are talking about index funds at brunch in a way that makes your stomach tighten. You change the subject, you make a joke about avocado toast, everyone laughs, the joke costs you nothing, and also it costs you everything. There's a friend at that table who makes half what you make and seems to have more. You can't figure out how, you don't ask. Asking would mean admitting you don't know. Rule 4. The first sign you're behind isn't a number, it's the topics you start avoiding. 30, 31, 32. The builder's Roth crosses $40,000. The 401k is well past that, and the discipline has stopped requiring discipline. It's just who you are now. You don't feel deprived. You stop looking at the things you're not buying. The spender turns 30 and there's a different phone call now. Your dad needs help with something, a car repair, $1,100. And for the first time you have to say the thing out loud. You can't, not won't, can't. And you hear yourself say it, and you hear the small silence on the other end, and you say you'll figure something out, and you both pretend the silence didn't happen. That silence is the most expensive thing the spender has bought yet, and it didn't cost $1. 33. The builder does something that looks insane to everyone around you. You buy a duplex. FHA loan, 3.5% down, you live in one half, you rent out the other, and the tenant's check covers most of the mortgage, so now you're paying almost nothing to live somewhere that's also quietly paying you. You didn't get richer that day, you changed what money does while you sleep. Rule 5. At the bottom you trade your hours for money. Higher up, you start buying things that trade their hours for you. I want to be honest about the cost here, because there's always a cost, and this channel doesn't pretend there isn't. The tenant in the other half is a single mom, 2 kids, and 1 month she's 9 days late, and you stand at her door with a notice in your hand that the property management software auto-generated, and she's standing there in scrubs, just off a shift, and you have a decision that is financially correct and humanly ugly. You hand her the notice. You say, "Let me know if you need anything," which is a thing the builder's own mother once said and meant, and here it means almost nothing. You go back inside your half of the house, and you don't feel like a landlord. You feel like someone who used to know better. That's a thing nobody tells you about the climb. Some of the rungs are made of other people, and now the floor drops out. 34. A health crisis. Not yours, your partner's. A diagnosis that comes on a normal Wednesday and rearranges every plan you had. The deductible alone is brutal. There are weeks of no income on one side of the household. The duplex needs a new roof in the same month. $14,000, because catastrophes apparently coordinate, and in the span of about 8 months, the builder watches the net worth fall by close to 40%. The cash reserve is gone. You sell some of the brokerage at a loss to cover the gap. You swore you'd never touch it, and you touch it, because a person you love is more important than a chart. You sit in that waiting room, and the whole story you told yourself about being the responsible one feels like a joke. You did everything right, everything, and the universe sent a Wednesday anyway. Here's what the setback teaches you, and it's not what the early version of you would have guessed. You don't rebuild the same way. Before, you were optimizing for growth, every dollar working as hard as it could. After, you build a wall first, a real emergency fund, boring cash sitting there doing almost nothing, 6 months of it, and the younger builder would have called that lazy money, but now you understand it's not lazy. It's the thing that lets you keep the machine running when the next Wednesday comes. And there's always a next Wednesday. The partner recovers, slowly, the roof gets fixed, the brokerage you sold off claws back over 2 years, and the gap you lost you make back. But you make it back as a different person, more cautious, less proud. You stop thinking the chart owed you anything. Rule 6. The goal was never to avoid the crash. It was to still be standing on the other side of it. Now the same years on the other side, the spender hits 34 and goes to a financial wellness seminar at work. Not for the wellness, for the free sandwiches. You sit in the back, eat 2 turkey clubs, half listen to a man in a quarter zip say, "Pay yourself first," and you leave with a pamphlet. And the pamphlet sits on the counter for 4 months, and eventually a wet coffee mug goes on top of it, and it becomes a coaster. That's the closest the spender comes, for now, to a plan. And it's funny, it's genuinely funny, and it's the saddest sentence in this whole script, and both things are true. 35, 36, 37. This is the acceleration. This is where the 1 degree of difference, 18 years down the runway, becomes 2 planes in completely different countries. The builder's accounts compound on a base that's now large enough that the growth alone, in a normal year, exceeds the spender's entire annual salary. Let that land. The builder's money now out-earns a full-time human being, and the builder is asleep while it happens. The spender, meanwhile, is fine, genuinely. This is important. The spender has a decent car, takes the trips, has the streaming, eats well, posts the photos, and the spender's life looks, on Instagram, slightly better than the builder's. The builder still drives the older car, still lives in half a duplex, and from the outside at 37, you'd still envy the spender. That's the cruelest year of all, because the truth has fully formed underneath the surface, and the surface still tells the opposite story. There's a friend the builder hasn't heard from in a while, the Miami friend from way back, the one whose photos used to get 200 likes. They text out of nowhere. They've heard somehow that the builder is doing well, and there's an ask coming. You can feel it before it arrives. And when it comes, a few $1,000s, a rough patch, totally understandable, the conversation changes something between you that you can't change back. You say yes. You also know you'll never quite trust the friendship the same way. You bought something and lost something in the same sentence. Nobody warned you that money makes some relationships into transactions you didn't agree to. 40. The builder is sitting on roughly $1.1 million in net worth. The duplex is most of the way paid down by someone else's rent. The Roth that started at $187 a month and never moved is a meaningful chunk of it. But the real wealth came from what the habit made possible. The maxed 401k, the property, the 18 years of refusing to inflate. And here's the quiet part. It doesn't feel like arriving. You thought $1 million would feel like a door opening. It feels like a room that's larger and quieter than you expected. You sit in a dentist's waiting room and realize you're the only person there not doing math about the bill. You buy groceries without looking at a single price tag, and you can't remember when that started. The number bought you something real, the silence of not being afraid. It just doesn't make a sound. Nobody throws a parade for the absence of fear. The spender is also 40. The spender has a few thousand in a 401k from a job that auto-enrolled them, which they never adjusted, a car that's nearly paid off just in time to buy another, no house, the same low fever of debt a little higher now, a life that by every visible measure has been pleasant, good food, good trips, 20 years of small, reasonable yeses. The spender is not a cautionary tale. The spender is, most people. The spender is, statistically, the person watching this. It's a Thursday. The spender is sitting in the car in the office parking lot after work, not crying, focusing, not panicking, just sitting the way you sit when you're not ready to go inside yet and you don't know why. You open your phone, you pull up a compound interest calculator. The first time in your life you've ever done this. You type it in slowly, $187 a month, 18 years, 10%. You hit calculate. The number loads. You don't react, you don't slam the wheel, you don't cry. You just sit there, in the parking lot, holding a phone that's showing you a life you already lived. The screen dims. You don't turn it back on. It was always $6.23 a day.